Good morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you. So if I could have LBUSD staff, if you see any parent needing assistance to get on the Chromebook, if folks could walk around and help, that'd be great. So first of all, welcome to our first parent meeting forum of the year. We always like to start on time and end on time. As you all know, for those who are new, I'm going to share something with you. For those who's a returning member, raise your hand. Okay, great. So a lot. So we always film in the morning, so it will be posted on the internet later. But we're doing something new this year. So we're live streaming. So people can watch it from their comfortable couch with Coco. And I'm going to share some things with you. We've done it a couple times with our parent university workshops. The first one on high school choice had over 1,500 viewers. And then we just did another one this last week. It had over 600. And I was one of them. So I was at my house watching. And as I was watching, 104 other people were watching at the same time. And so it's pretty cool. So this is something new. We want to give OMS staff, thank you for doing this for us. We're very, very excited. What we always do for those who are new, we always introduce who we are and what school or schools that we may be representing. So we'll start with that. And individuals.
Great, thank you.
Individuals will walk around and hand the mic, so go ahead.
Hi, my name is Danielle Crawford, and I'm representing Madison Elementary School. I have two children who attend there, a kindergartner and a fourth grader.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Erika Leos, representing Dooley Elementary and Bancroft Middle School. I have three kids, 12 years, 8 years, and 5 years old.
Great, thanks so much.
Good morning, my name is Ana Sandoval. I'm representing Garfield Elementary School, and I have two kids, one at Garfield Elemental, and my son at Camps High School. Thank you.
Excellent.
Talofa, aloha everyone, welcome. My name is Malaya Thipule Aito Omalatai Coleman, and I'm the founder of Pacific Island Education Voyage. And I think I represent all schools, or all students in Long Beach Unified School District.
Thank you, right here.
My name's Terry Jameson. I have two grandsons at Marshall Academy, and that's the school I'm representing.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Rafael Nendel Flores. I represent Newcomb Academy, and I have two children there, one in 6th grade and one in 4th grade.
Excellent.
Good morning. I'm Megan Kerr. I'm on the Board of Education.
Diana Craighead, Board of Education, and mother of three, as with my colleague, mother of three, each of us, Long Beach Unified educated kindergarten through high school.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Leticia Arbaiza y vengo representando la escuela Rosabel. Ahí tengo un niño de 3er grado y también soy madre de una estudiante del grado 9 en Poli.
Thank you.
Buenos días, mi nombre es María Saldaña y vengo representando en la escuela Bryan. Tengo una niña con necesidades especiales y otro en high school, Poli.
Excellent, thank you.
Good morning, I'm Kelly McCarty. I'm representing Stanford Middle School, and I have a son who just started Wilson High School.
Excellent.
Hi, my name is Karen Wolf, and I represent Adams Elementary School, and I have a son in 2nd grade.
Great.
I'm Rebecca Fast. I work in Parent University. I'm also a mom of 2 daughters at Keller Middle School.
Hi, I'm Gayla Dykins, mom of 3 graduates of Lakewood High School.
Good morning, I'm Kelly Hodge. I work out of the Office of Equity and Access, and I have a son who graduated from Long Beach in 2011.
Leah Odette, I have a 1st grader at Los Cerritos Elementary School.
Robin Weckerly, I also have a 1st grader at Los Cerritos Elementary.
My name is Vianney Gomez, and I have 2 boys, one in Twain and one in MacArthur.
Adele Snow, representing Gompers, where I have a 5th grader, and I have 2 freshmen at Lakewood.
Dasha Gursky, and I have twins. Yay, they're seniors. So one's at McBride, I'm representing McBride, and then John's at Milliken.
Oh, sorry. That's okay.
Allison Cripp, Los Cerritos Elementary, 3rd and 5th.
Gloria Rubalcaba, District Interpreter.
Quentin Brown, I'm the Program Administrator working out of the Office of the Deputy Superintendent, former principal at Poly and Renaissance High School for the Arts.
Hi, good morning. I'm Lucy Salazar. I'm the Director for Community Partnerships out of the Deputy Superintendents of Ed Services.
Good morning. I'm Kimberly Johnson, and I'm representing the Equity Access College and Career Readiness Office and proud parent of 2 sons that are products of Long Beach Unified, Wilson Bruins.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ruth Ashley, Deputy Superintendent of Education Services, also a graduate of Long Beach Schools, just as are my 2 girls as well.
Hi, my name is Victoria Flores. I represent the Research Office.
And I'm Lori Betchel. I'm the Superintendent Secretary.
Chuck Howard representing Wilson, and I have a senior.
Hi, my name is Monique West, and I'm representing Colin Powell, and I also have a freshman at McBride.
I'm Rick Turrentine, representing Rogers Middle School, and I have 2 granddaughters there, and I have a daughter at Stanford Middle School.
Who's the principal?
Hi, I'm Sheena Dennis. I'm a grandparent representing Willard Elementary and Jordan High School. And I'm a graduate from Jordan High School. I have 3 children and two children that have attended Long Beach Unified and have graduated.
Good morning. My name is Nare Prank. I have a child that is attending Nelson Middle School, and I am representing Nelson today. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Alan Rising. I'm the Business Services Administrator for Long Beach Unified School District.
I'm Haley Franks Tucker, and I have 2 kids at Carverly K-8.
Hello, my name is Clemencia Crespa. I represent Cabrillo High School.
And my name's Jordan Tracy, and I have a 3rd grader at Cabrillo Elementary.
Great, thank you. And we have some seats down here in the front also for individuals who may need them. So first of all, thank you everyone for coming. We have lots of information to give to you today. Just a couple reminders of the norms for the meetings. One is that we're always respectful of everybody and everyone's opinion. That's really, really important. The other one is that these are general forms, which means that we're giving information that are general in nature to the district. So if one has an individual complaint of a teacher or administrator or a parent or another staff member, I'll see you afterwards. I usually can stay pretty long after the meeting. Unfortunately, today I can only stay for about 20 minutes because I have another meeting with the president of the university and the president of the community college. So, but I'm always available if you need to see me. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Today is packed with lots of information. We've had a great beginning of the school year, and we're going to go over our agenda. The first part is I'm going to go over the budgets for you. We always give you the budgets so that you have everyone's budget. So everyone, we have no secrets in this district. Then we're going to talk about Measure E updates, and that's Alan. He's always been gracious to come to our meetings and to share. And then many of you, if you were here last year, participated in our focus groups on the high school readiness guide, because remember we have the college and career readiness guide for our high school kids. You wanted something very similar for our middle school kids. You got it. It just took us a little while to get it, but we actually had it designed by children, I should say. Everyone's a child to me. I'm much older. So the high school kids, they actually designed it this summer, put it together with our research folks, and we're very, very excited. It's actually going out soon. And then again, we'll have questions. So if we look up here, you have this also on your hard copies. It's also in your classroom as a participant. The first one is the unrestricted lottery. Every school gets unrestricted lottery, and it's by the number of students that you have at your particular school. And the way you read this document is it says carryover. Now, carryover is the amount of money in that particular program that was not spent last year. So, for example, Adams had roughly about 9,000 last year. They only spent about 7,000, so they had 2,000 left over, and that's what carryover means. So you look at the carryover. In this case, it's 2,000 for Adams. New money is about 9,000. I can't even read it with my glasses. A new column this year where it says ETK, TK, and K. ETK stands for Early Transitional Kindergartner. Those are those children who are not 5 until after January. Transitional kindergarten are the youngsters turning 5 after September 1. And then kindergarten, of course, are our regular kindergarten students. What we did a little differently this year for the schools is that we gave every teacher $500 to spend for their classroom to buy appropriate materials that met the developmental needs of those youngsters. Okay? So you might have 5 teachers that fit in this category at your school, like an ETK teacher, a TK teacher, and 3 Ks. They each get to decide how they want to spend that $500. So I may buy a rug, I might buy some developmental appropriate puppets or games, flexible seating, whatever one chose to do. So they had a lot of flexibility. The key here is that you need to know, this is something we've never done before. We've always given our teachers a gift card at the end of the year. They get a $100 Office Depot card that they can spend on things. So these teachers received an additional $500 with one caveat. It had to be spent for their particular classroom, and it has to be spent by December 31st. Because I've known in my 18 years now as superintendent, if we give something and we don't give a deadline, it doesn't happen. And the most importantly is that teachers were saying they wanted some materials that really met the developmental needs of the youngsters, because we have a whole early learning initiative. So we wanted to give them some resources that they didn't have to go to the site council for, and so on. So that's new. So you can see altogether at the elementary schools, they get about $600,000 to bees. Under carryover, I had a weak moment this summer. I'm known as a mean guy, you know that. I don't like to spend money for a lot of reasons. But my budget department convinced me that it'd be a wise decision to give the schools 100% of their carryover. In the past, we've only given them 90%. So we made the decision, thanks to the budget department, that they're going to get 100% of their carryover. Yes, and the principals were very happy for every program from now on, with one rule that you have to spend at least 80% of that money this current year for the children, because that's what it's for. So you can't save all the money. That's just, it's not good. You do need to save some money because there's going to be a rainy day. And it's just like at home, you don't want to spend every penny if you don't have to. So I recommend 20%. So this is elementary. This is middle school. Middle school gets unrestricted lottery. Here you only see a small group who have that ETK, TK, and K, and those are the K schools. Obviously, middle school doesn't have that program. So you can see that. High school is a little more complicated. So high school gets, obviously, their carryover. They get what's called their general allocation. And then we give a unique allocation to art, to music, and to science. That's above and beyond the general piece. So I'm going to pick on Wilson, because it's close. So they had $11,000 in carryover. They're going to get $36,000 in new money. They had no art carryover, so their art department spent all the money that they received last year that was for the art department. So they're going to get an additional new $9,000 of new money. Their music department didn't have any carryover either, so the music department is spending all their money. They have another $9,400 there. Their science department carried over $9,500 from last year, from their allocation. So then they have that, plus their new allocation of $28,000. And the reason you see that science is usually high is because of the materials used in science. And so they have a total of $105,000 there. So you can see collectively among all the high schools, there's an additional $1 million that they have to spend. And so if you're on site council, site council will talk about that. Sometimes they allocate it by teacher, department, or whatever. So that's really important. Any questions regarding the lottery budgets? A lot of money out there, so you can see it. Now this one is only for the schools who are Title I schools. Okay? So if you're Rogers, you're not a Title I school. Adams, you're a Title I school. We give this to everybody because it's important to know. So I'm going to pick on Adams, okay? So Adams is on the top. They had $82,000 in carryover last year. They have a new allocation this year of $365,000. And remember, in Title I schools, there's a required set aside for parent involvement. And they have to spend at least $6,700 on parent involvement. They can spend more, but they have to spend at least $6,700. And then, so they have a total of $454,000 in Title I. Now you may ask, hey Chris, $82,000 is a lot in carryover. Don't get mad at the school yet, okay? You can get mad at me. The reason that it's high is that we had a settlement last year with a group called Public Advocates, and one of that settlement was that all, not all, but certain schools would have money for Saturday school, after school tutoring, and so on. So the reason that they have a high carryover is because they had set aside some of their own money to do that. Well, they didn't have to do that this year, okay? So that's why this year you'll see some high carryovers in schools where they had set aside their own money for tutoring. Well, that's actually being paid by the district, okay? Now this year, those schools continue to get that, but all schools in the district have money for tutoring, whether you're Adams or Rogers or Wilson or Renaissance, all schools have that. All schools, including Adams, can use that money for enrichment. So all schools have money for tutoring and money for enrichment. And if you remember, one of our issues that we talked about last year from parents and their requests was money for tutoring, money for enrichment. So every school has that. So what I would do is when you go back, if you're not a Title I school, I would ask your principal, they have those resources, they have the allotment, how much it is for both the tutoring as well as the enrichment. Okay? So there's a lot of, so you can see that just in Title I, we have about $17 million that are going to our schools. Again, we want to spend at least 80% of this money on current needs of our youngsters. We don't want to save 80% of it. Next, this one is the LCFF budget. And all schools get some money here. And I'm going to pick on, oh, I'm sorry, this is the school-wide support, right? Mine says, you know, this is, you want to go in your packet where it says LCFF school-wide student support, not the incentive. So if you look at the top, it says Chavez carry forward $67,000, the new budget $25,000. You should have that in your, you have to flip back a couple pages.
It's numerical. I noted them in your packet numerical by the resource number 0419, 0422. So just
if you go to 422.
Document, now the computer knows it the way it wants.
Yeah.
Explain the acronym.
So it's in your packet.
I'm sorry?
Can you explain the acronym?
Yeah, thank you. We have a lot of acronyms in education. LCFF stands for Local Control Funding Formula. That's the budget that the state has given all school districts where if you're a child in poverty, a child who is a foster youth, or a child that's an English language learner, the district gets additional money for those children. We get about $122 million in what's called LCFF. And then we develop a plan, here's another acronym, called LCAP, Local Control Accountability Plan. It's actually on the website. Anyone can read it. It's in English, Spanish, and Khmer. So you can see that Chavez has about $138,000 in LCFF funds, but you really want to take out that rec aid part because that rec aid is the money they're spending on rec aids for morning supervision, lunchtime supervision, and after-school supervision. So really, the money that they have to spend on new things would be the $67,000 and the $25,000.
I do have, the parentheses means that, like, Edison has the parentheses, so that means that they went over their budget?
So the question is about the parentheses. The question was, a school had parentheses. Does that mean they went over their budget? And the answer is yes. You don't want parentheses. You either want a dash or you want a number there, because that means you didn't spend. Because what happens with the parentheses when you have, so let's pick Edison, so for example, has $4,300 that they spent. So that comes off this year's budget. So if you overspend, it's going to come off the next year's budget.
Same question.
Uh-huh.
On number 616, is it Limbert's STEM Academy?
Lindbergh Middle School, yes. Mhm.
Yes, that one has a minus of 6,192. But
Not
they
on,
have.
not on the LCFF one. You might be
No,
looking.
I'm talking about this one.
That's the Title I budget.
Oh, okay. So.
Yeah. So any parentheses comes off that particular budget.
But
So
they do have a carryover of 19,344 on the previous page.
let me see. So if you look at, this is under the Title I budget, okay? This is a different page. So if you looked at the Title I budget under Lindbergh, which it's the school's number is 616, it has under carryover, they actually spent more than they had. So they actually spent $6,100 more than they had, so they had no carryover. So they're in a deficit. Their new money was $247,000. That was new money allocated this year. So we have to subtract that $6,000 from the 47, which gives them $240,000 this year. So what we do is to be very transparent to everybody is that under the carryover column, we either put, did you truly have carryover, or did you overspend? And then if you overspent, it comes out of your new money. If you didn't overspend, we add the carryover plus the new money, and that's your money. So going back to our LCFF budget, you can see that every school has that K-12. So this is a lot of money for school, and this is money, again, that's designed to help your school become a better school, and it's money for students and teachers on making sure that everyone's getting to the highest bar possible. Questions about LCFF, the local control? Okay, next we'll go, I'm going to skip that because that's the same thing. Here is the performance one. This is 415, so this is going to be before the one we just talked about. If you look on the top, as Lori said, it says 415 performance incentives. This is money that schools received this year, as well as in the past, for hitting certain targets that we have set as a school district. So did they grow? Did they close the achievement gap? Did they hit certain strategic goals that we have as a school system? And so you can see, if you look at under the top part, Chavez had 4,500 from last year's that they didn't spend, but they didn't get any new money this year. So they have a total of $4,500, because you don't lose it if you don't spend it. So if you go down to Robinson didn't have any money last year, but they got $20,000 this year, because the school did really well on those metrics that we look at. So they have a total of $20,000. Go down to, let me find it for you. Yes.
I have a question.
Sure.
So if the school doesn't get any money this year, that means they didn't hit their targets last year?
It means that they didn't hit the targets that we set as a school system.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that they did not grow. It means that they grew, but we have really high targets. So for example, in order to get the incentive money for closing the achievement gap, you have to close the achievement gap by 50%. That's really high. 14 schools did it this year. 7 did it the previous year, 14 schools did it this year. If you're at the high school, one of the high school targets is that you have to have at least 60% of your seniors in A through G courses, or which are the courses that qualify you to go to the California State University system as well as the UC system. not only do you have to hit 60% as a school, but every subgroup has to hit 60%. Every subgroup. And remember, in our district, a subgroup is 20 students of a same group. So for example, if I'm African American and I'm at Wilson High School and we have 20 African American students as seniors, that's a subgroup. So I'm proud to say that we had several high schools that not only hit the 60%, but hit the 60% in every subgroup. And here's an example of closing the gap. So at Wilson, they were one of the schools that hit the 60% in every, as a whole, actually it was 70%, so they were way above our target. And every subgroup hit it, and the Cambodian subgroup was exactly the same as the white subgroup, 80 to 80. So that's good. Yes?
I'm just wondering, for elementary school, all this, when you say closing the achievement gap, that's based on test scores?
Correct. So
anything else or just test scores?
No, so the achievement gap is only based on academic scores. Thank you for asking that question. So at elementary school, it's going to be in English, language arts and mathematics. In middle school, it's going to be in language arts and mathematics. In high school, it's going to be in those subjects only in 11th grade, and it's going to be the A through G, because that's one of the big goals. Because remember, in high school, students are only tested once.
Yeah, I just had a question. How do we know where our, like, for instance, my school's Gantt. So there's just little dashes. How do we know where we fall on the spectrum of the achievement gap? Like, where do we find that number where we need to make up?
So what you'd want to do as parents, this is a great discussion for your site councils, is to ask your principal to share the information, because they all have the dashboard information, of which significant groups are at your particular school, because not every school has the same significant groups, and what are the achievement gaps at your particular school. Because you might be a really high-performing school, but you could have an achievement gap between girls and boys, okay? Or achievement gap in another issue. So what we've told every school is no matter where you are at on the spectrum, everybody has goals. Everyone has opportunities to close the gap. So for example, I'm going to pick again on Wilson. Wilson, I always say we have 5 seconds to celebrate and a whole another 55 minutes to work. Because even though Wilson did exactly what we want all schools to do, they hit that target of 60%. They actually exceeded the target as a system. But when you look at, remember I said that the Cambodian and the white students, there was no gap. It was 80 to 80. Well, when you look at African American to Caucasian, there's a 20-point gap. So even though 60% for African American students is much higher than the state, is probably twice what the state rate is, and it's really good, guess what? We're pushing to even be better. So every school would say that. So every school would say, what can we do with this particular group to help them close that gap? And it could be, and we have a gap as a school system of boys and girls in AP courses. The gap is pretty big. We have more girls taking AP courses than we do boys. So we're really pushing kids to do all that. So we look at all subgroups. We have a question here and then over here.
I guess my follow-up question would be, like, to her question would be, is there any other way the district has looked into providing incentives for something that measures something other than test scores?
Yes, so we do look at and we look at growth, because we just don't look at absolute, because we actually are having a big celebration in about 3 weeks for schools who exceeded growth, because there was a report done that Long Beach is one of those schools beating the odds, the district beating the odds by growth. We also look at the core survey. So on the core survey, for example, we look at the culture climate of the school. So I'll shout out to Cabrillo. So Cabrillo has really worked hard on the last couple of years of what we call sense of belonging, okay? So, and that we look at it from the parents' perspective and the students' perspective as well as the staff's. So we look at those issues for those schools. So, and then on the flip side, what we encourage folks, and many of you have participated in this, is that we encourage you to request one-time proposals to address some of those issues, because we know it's the wholeness of the issue, but we also know that we have to prepare our youngsters for all these other issues. At the high school level, we also look at how many students are in internships, work-based learning opportunities, all these things. So, but the beauty is that we want to look at it all, to be very honest with you, because it's the wholeness of the issue. So, because take the sense of belonging. If your sense of belonging is going this way, that's not good. So we want to address why. Or maybe the kids think it's great and the parents don't think it's great, and the staff's here. So we need to ask those questions. So that's really important.
The question I had to do with the test scores of like the elementary level for the dual immersion students, because I was hearing that you're testing in English and math, but our students are really on the first two, especially at the ones where it's 90%, 10%, they're getting very limited English language arts. So then how are they being tested?
So we
That's our
test the
question.
students in English and Spanish, and you may not be surprised by this. Our youngsters who are in dual immersion tend to do very well and tend to outperform our English counterparts, especially when we get into the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. So, yeah, so in 3rd grade, it's a little tough because 3rd grade's the first year that you're going to test. And like you said, some models are 90% in the Spanish. It grows up the ladder. Some are 50-50 models, but our youngsters do quite well. And then our students who go to the middle school component of dual immersion do extremely well. Because remember, those youngsters are taking the AP Spanish test as 8th graders, where most students don't take that until the 11th or 12th grade. Jerlene.
I have 2 questions. What can the school sites do with the funding they receive from the incentive? And you said that this goes toward the achievement gap. The sites that do not reach the incentive goals that they set, what kind of assessment is done to evaluate why they did not reach it, and what kind of resources are provided so that they can reach it the next time?
Great. First question is, this money, the incentive money, again, is to be used by the school to decide what they can do to enrich that program. So it could be a wide host of activities. But again, it's to close the gaps, to build culture, climate, whatever they want to do. So there are really no strings attached to it that you have to only do X, Y, or Z, and schools have done all kinds of things. On the flip side, Darlene raises a really important point. What do we do for schools who didn't hit those targets that we want, and what kind of support are they getting? So every school, whether they hit the targets or not, have to develop an action plan of what they're going to do. There might be particular schools where we, as a school system, provide greater support who didn't hit specific targets. So for example, we might provide additional coaching support to that particular school in mathematics, where people from the Office of Curriculum and Instruction will go there, work with the teachers, provide that. We talked earlier about how all the schools have tutoring and after school and Saturday school. It might be a professional learning opportunity that we have to provide. It could be where in some of our schools, we have actually brought in a program called Reading Recovery, which is a very intense program, one-to-one with the lowest achieving students in 1st grade, where they have basically a one-to-one tutor. Highly successful, but we go to that school, we work with the students and we work with the teachers, and then we go to another school after they've shown progress after 3 or 4 years. So what the district does at every level, whether it's elementary, middle, or high school, we actually do what I'm going to call laser-like focus and support to those schools who need it. It may only be at a particular grade level at a particular school. For example, if a school suspension rate is going up, we are going to pull those people together and talk about why, look at the data, what kind of support do we need to provide, and where do we go from here. We also monitor the schools on a regular basis. So the middle schools and high schools get what's called quarterly visits by folks like me and their supervisors and others, and we talk about all these things. At the elementary level, they have another program called CIV visits, curriculum inquiry visits. So that's where teams from other schools will pair up, and they will visit each other's schools based on their academic needs and how they can support one another. Because it's, again, about collaboration. Great question. There was another question, right?
First of all, I want to thank, I've been coming here since 2008, and I've heard so many programs offered by the district to improve our students. Unfortunately, when you look at the statistics before they enter into K, all our underrepresented students are starting at, there's a cap of 2 years apart. So how can you test the students in 3rd grade when they are 2 years behind? So you can predict by taking that test that there's a big gap within the underrepresented students. What can we do to help close that gap? And I'm talking specifically for my Pacific Islander students, that they are struggling in elementary school all the way up to high school. And we cannot continue. I love the continuation of talking about the success level, which we should. But the success level is always like 2%. We need that success level. But there's still a 65% of our students failing. So I'm going to struggle in that situation.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do something
Well,
about that.
we always want to go on the facts. 65% of our students aren't failing. No. No, actually, if you look at, and this is where you want to look at things in multiple forces. So, for example, you're going to look at grade level, elementary, then middle, and high. So, for example, at high school, 56% of the Pacific Islander students met A through G, met the CSU UC. That's as high as the state and as a whole. So, are there issues within that subgroup at the different levels? Yes, they have to address those issues. And that is where we go back to looking at those particular issues for students. One thing we have done for our, the board has set a target of 100% of our students who live in poverty to go to one of our preschool programs, and we're at about 95%. Because again, we want our youngsters, and these are 4-year-olds, so we want our youngsters to get the early learning opportunities as early as possible. So once we get to the 4%, the 100% 4-year-olds, then we want to see if when we get resources, how we can work on 3-year-olds. Because we want those gap opportunities to close. But let me go to this next one because we have a lot to share with you. So this one is real fast. High schools get additional athletic budget money. Again, it's based on the number of kids at the school. This is for athletic programs for both boys and girls. You can't just spend this money on football. So we watch that very carefully to make sure there's gender equity. And you can see they get their carryover. You can see they get their budget. So if you hear that the lacrosse team at school X needs Y, you need to say, if you're in a PTA and they want you to spend some money, tell them to come here first. Because this is really important because they'll try to do that.
How about athletic support for middle schools?
We don't give additional money for the middle school component. We have money that we pay at the central for the coaching stipends and that kind of stuff, but we don't give additional money at the middle school, at the district level. So.
What if there was a pilot program started for intramurals after school?
Well, we'd have to discuss it. You could write a proposal and we can always have a discussion. This one, I apologize, but you have a hard copy. This is really hard to read, but this is money at the high school level for the support for pathways and for AP and for the bridge.
Give us a minute. Give us a minute.
It looks like this. It looks like this. I have to work. I'll do a better job of giving you a better document this one. This is really bad. So I'm going to pick on Poly this time. So Poly had $12,000 that they didn't spend from their programs last year. They received this year $27,000 for their bridge program, which is where they invite all 9th graders to come in before school starts. And they also have AP incentive. That's what that means. So this is where a school will pay for tutoring sessions, either after school or on Saturday, for all the students in the AP program. And then there's a program called Pathway Allotment. So Poly has 6 pathways, and the pathways collectively receive $35,000. Each pathway has a specific amount of money, and that money is just like that TK money, is meant to be spent on that pathway. So for example, PACE is a pathway at Poly. PACE gets a set of amount of money. That money is to be spent on the PACE kids. Justice is a pathway at Poly. That's a law pathway. They have money for that particular pathway. So a school may use it for field trips. They may use it for speakers. They may use it for materials. Whatever they choose for that particular pathway. Because again, teachers are saying, hey, Chris, you want me to do this pathway stuff, but I need support. And here's, again, the school site council doesn't control that money. That money is controlled by the pathway teachers and the pathway administrators of that particular pathway. Oops, sorry, pathway. I hope I didn't break it.
Bad timing.
So you can see we've given a lot of money to different programs because we never want one to say that they don't have the resources they need to do the job, because we have huge needs as we've talked about. And then the last one I think is this one, and this is probably this is one that makes me the happiest, to be honest with you. This is the money we give to our kids at each of the high schools. So this is the money that goes to our high schools, and the students decide how to spend this money. I love this program because the kids always tell me how difficult it is for them to spend this money. And I always ask them, why is it difficult? Nope, that's not because of the principal. They said, Mr. Steinhauser, our needs are this big, we have this much money, and we have to make a decision. I said, guess what? That's what the real world's about. And the one thing I have vetoed, and you need to know it, and it's true, the very first year they asked if they could have a taco truck. I said, no, we're not having a taco truck, because they had some legitimate complaints about the food at school. So we're working on that, which is good. We're working on it. So it's a lot of fun. We'll revisit these programs throughout the school year, but the bottom line is that you as parents and other parents, your voice is really, really important in all these issues. And we want you to make sure that you have the right information and to ask questions.
My question, I don't even know if this is right. My question has to do with dual immersion.
Yes.
Is there specific funding allocated for that? It's kind of like a pathway at the elementary schools, or do the schools have to use their LCFF funding or their regular budget?
Dual immersion does not receive additional resources because they get, when there's textbook adoptions, we buy that for every student. They get the same amount of funding that every student gets. If they're a Title I school, they would get that extra money. Where they do get extra support is by the district in what we would call teacher quota. So, and by that I mean is that for every 30 students, there's a teacher. But what happens in dual immersion in some schools is that you might start off with 40 kindergartners who started off with dual immersion in 2 classes. Then it dribbles down because kids decide to go out and so on. So where you really don't have even a full class, you might have 22 kids. Well, instead of closing that class, because it does cost more, we actually fund it, so we actually subsidize that. In some schools that's not the case because they're so impacted, but in some schools it is. So that would be the only, there is, at the district level, there is a dual immersion support person who goes to the different schools and meets with those people, and so on. So, but they're just like an English program. The difference is it's taught in our case, Spanish.
Good morning. Do you think that in the near future, it's possibly a possibility of having dual immersion program be expanded to the opportunity for all students at the elementary level? And then secondly, the student advisory committee money. Who at the school site is in charge or is assisting the students to decide how to spend the money? Who at the school site?
So on the first one, in the dual immersion program, the program is expanding, but do I see a day in the near future that would all students? No, and I'll tell you why. 2 things. One is staffing. We do not have, as a state, the qualified staff individuals to teach dual immersion, right? It's just the honest truth. So because the failure of bilingual education when I started was that they put individuals in bilingual classrooms that didn't speak Spanish. That's not good, okay? That was pretty common practice. So what we have to make sure is a person who is going to teach in any dual immersion program is they're BCLAD certified, which means they're certified as a bilingual educator in whatever language it is, and that we're getting the good results. Because the goal of dual immersion is biliteracy, okay? So that is the goal. It's where it is done well, it's highly effective. We have plans to expand it, but we will be expanding on a very strategic pathway. Number one, making sure that we have the teachers, and number two, making sure that we have the interest, because some individuals may not want dual immersion program. So we want to make sure that we have that interest. So Long Beach is one of the few districts in the nation that has an all dual immersion middle school. That is not very common. It's usually a pathway in a middle school. So there will be a day in Long Beach where we will probably have to add a second all dual immersion middle school. So, and again, that's part of our forecasting out, 5, 7, 8 years from now of what the trend is going to be. So the board has given us those directives and so on. The second part on the students actually, the student leaders, and it's a little different at each school, meet with other student groups at their schools under the ASB as well as other leaders at that school. So some have held big surveys, others have held focus groups, and again, you could see some schools have some carryovers because they haven't spent the money. So but we work on them very closely to do that. So Alan, I'm going to turn it to you because we have to get going. I'll answer questions at the end because we have Measure E and then we have the high school readiness guide. Be nice to Alan. He's always got good news. He's the air conditioning man.
So good morning, everyone. And again, my name is Alan Rising. I'm the Business Services Administrator for the district, which means I manage a lot of the service components of the district, including our construction program, our maintenance program, operations, grounds, all of those type of things that happen at our school sites. Today, the superintendent asked me to come in and talk to you a little bit about our Measure E bond effort, our construction program that's happening in the district and the things that we're doing to give you a little update on some of the successes we've had and some of the projects as we move forward into what we're doing in future years. I always like to start a little conversation about some historical perspective and some background. So there's a lot of familiar faces in the room when I've done this before. There's probably some new folks in the room as well. But I get this question regularly about what, Measure E, where is it, or what happened to all the money, right? Those kind of questions that come in. So for perspective, back in June of 2016, the board finalized a document that actually reflected our facilities master plan. This was a document that we attempted to quantify the need in our district across all of our school sites and all of our facilities that we manage. We actually finalized that plan and identified in 2016 in excess of $3.5 billion of need across our district. That's all the things from roofing to plumbing systems to paint to new HVAC equipment, which we'll talk about in just a moment, to all of those things that are needed at our school sites as we manage a district that's more than 100 years old. So using that information, on June the 23rd, the board adopted a resolution which ultimately became Measure E to ask the voters for $1.5 billion in taxes, in property taxes, to help support our school district. So right away I always pause and I say I'm not a mathematician, but there's a gap there. And I know the superintendent talked about it earlier when he provided funding for students, but we have to make some of those very same decisions as we go forward on what are priorities and what do we need to defer and pick up in future years. So as we talk through this and as you think about the schools that you represent, there may very well be things that are needed at your school sites that unfortunately we have a list because we have this master plan, which we're currently in the process of updating again, which we actually know those things and we're planning those out for long-term planning for the management of our schools. So we did pass a resolution for $1.5 billion. We went to the voters in November of 2016 And Measure E passed with a resounding 75% pass rate. So for those of you that voted for it, thank you. The money is going to a lot of really great stuff that's happening at our school sites across the district. And again, I put a little perspective up there. We talk about Measure E is going to cost the average property owner, the average homeowner in Long Beach, about $5 for every $100,000 property value of your home per month. So if you think about it in those terms, it's not a huge investment for the good of our kids and our schools as we move forward. So that's just a little historical perspective. So what are we going to do with this money, this $1.5 billion that we do have? So this is kind of a laundry list of items that we are addressing. These are our priority list that we included as we move into each school site to be addressed. Right at the top of the list, we talked about it a lot as we went into Measure E, is air conditioning of our school sites. But it's not a simple matter of just plugging in a window air conditioning unit or those type of things. The average age of our schools in Long Beach is now, I have to say this, 62 years. I used to say 61, but we've gained a year. So the average age is 62 years. So our utility systems are not ready to accept the kind of power drain that our new air conditioning units are going to put on them. So we have to upgrade our utility to all of our school sites, which means working with Edison, in some cases going down the street and around the corner to be able to get the power and bring it in to the school sites to be able to power some of these new systems that we're providing. We have ADA upgrades. These are those handicap accessible upgrades for both students and staff that have physical disabilities to ensure that our schools are open and inviting to all individuals in our community. We're going to be performing fire alarm upgrades, so we have the safest schools out there that have the most current fire alarm systems, intercoms, clocks, and speaker systems. This is an integral part of our security program. This allows communication from our office staff, our principals, and our administrators right to the classrooms so that they can give them instructions in the event that there's some incident that's happening, whether that's a power outage or whether that's some other incident that's happening at the school site. You have to have communications into those classrooms to let the teachers know what to be able to do. We're actually going to provide some instructional improvements, which is cameras, very similar to what you see here. A lot of our schools, the cameras, the technology that the teachers are using are cords or cables that are all over the floor. We're going to be getting rid of those and integrating those into the classroom so they're permanently fixed, and they give the teachers the ability to have a sound system. They wear a little microphone so they can actually project the instructional to get it to all those students in the classroom. So this is a big improvement. Ceiling repairs. So a lot of our interior classrooms, the ceilings are beginning to fall down. If you've ever been to one where a ceiling tile falls, very noisy. It luckily doesn't hurt people very much, but it does scare you. Interior lighting improvements, getting more energy efficient LED lighting systems. As I said, ceiling repairs, interior and exterior paint. It's been many years since a lot of our schools have been painted, and they do look like it, so we want to make sure that we look at our curb appeal for the neighborhood. New windows to keep that air conditioning inside the school, so that we don't have that air conditioning running out the windows and cooling the outside. We want to cool the children, not the neighborhood. And so we want to make sure that we keep that air conditioning inside. And then lastly, kind of in our laundry list here is other state-funded repairs. At the same time that Measure E passed, at the state level, there was a Proposition 51 that passed. This is back in 2016. It provided money, it provided billions of dollars statewide, $7 billion in fact, to help support districts like Long Beach to help match dollars. We have the ability to get about $300 million in match out of that Proposition 51. In fact, last week, the State Allocations Board approved us to get about $15 million in funding for projects that had already been completed previously, because we're applying for projects in arrears to be able to get that. What that does is it helps us extend our money to meet that funding delta that we have up there, that difference between $3.5 billion and $1.5 billion, to be able to extend the work that we do. You'll see that in things like roofs, because you don't see roofs up here. You'll see that in like plumbing systems that will be replaced at school sites. These will be unique to school sites because need is different at every school site depending on age and the relative wear or tear of those systems as we manage those through our deferred program to be able to leverage those dollars. So we're also going to go into athletic programs as well, because there's a direct link, we know that, between providing opportunities for kids beyond the classroom bell and in sports opportunities such as fields. We're putting in track and field upgrades, new synthetic turf, running tracks, bleacher upgrades. Middle schools will be getting more of a soccer type field. High schools will be getting a full stadium, which includes an NCAA certified running track, those type of upgrades, including upgrades to our bleacher systems. We just finished the poly bleacher system, if you've driven by, and we're just turned that over to the school site. It really looks quite nice out there as we finish that. Lighting upgrades or installation as needed. A lot of our lighting systems are very old. They need to be replaced and upgraded at our schools as well. And we'll also be looking at our aquatic centers. Almost all of our high schools have some sort of an aquatic center, and they're pretty old. They've shown their age. Many of us may have swam in those pools and know that they kind of need to be upgraded. So we're going to be building a new aquatic center on the school site, and we'll be repurposing that old natatorium, that old pool, into other activities at the school. That may be dance, it may be gymnastics, it may be wrestling, it may be those type of other athletic programs that are currently, in many cases, housed in like portables and other locations that aren't really conducive to what that program is trying to do there. We're also going to be, so that's kind of gives a quick snapshot into the big picture item that we'll be doing. Is there any questions at this point about what we're doing with the program? I know I went through that pretty quickly. Yeah.
Does this monies include the AV systems and some of the older auditoriums?
Yes.
Okay, and how do our principals apply? Are they already informed? So our principals are applying for Measure E and the other funding on a they already know how they obviously already have done this, or can they still do that?
I don't know if I understood your question.
So
with Measure
funding,
E,
if they need to upgrade the auditoriums and
yeah,
stuff.
as we're going into Measure E, all of the auditoriums are having an audiovisual system as well put in. So it's a projector that's actually mounted at the back of the auditorium, and it shoots to the front because auditoriums are large spaces, including connecting it into the existing sound system that the auditoriums have. So that'll be included. Now, if you're asking a question about whether you should move forward with a program at your school, it would depend on where you're at in the schedule. Some schools, unfortunately, are several years out before we get to them. So that'll be something at the school site you'll have to have.
Schools don't have to apply for Measure E. Everyone's on the Measure E schedule, and every school has different issues they'll deal with, but the principals all know that information.
And then, I'm sorry, one more question. Is that including like walkie-talkies and stuff? Does that have part
That,
of this?
no,
No,
that's a school.
That's a different program, yeah.
So to that point, in general, where do we find this information? So like a master grid of the schedule that is specific to our school so that we know, okay, 2021, we're going to receive HVAC or whatever. So, or whatever our school, those needs, those upgrade needs are, a dedicated list of that and the funding that that individual school is getting for those intended upgrades.
So
Where do
yeah,
find that?
we maintain a bond website. It's on the last page of your PowerPoint, where all of that information, including things like how much individual school sites are budgeted for, a lot of that information is all there. It's part of our COC, our Citizens Oversight Committee report. You can find that on our website. It's on the last page of my flyer where it shows the website location to be able to get that. And I'll show you in just a moment how to get there. Yeah.
Quick question, now that I'm in a high school, which is currently going through massive renovations at Lakewood, what does it look as a perspective of the athletic department when your pool, your gym, your football field, all of that is getting in construction at the same time?
It won't. First of all, it won't be in construction at the same time. Yeah. So we're currently we're actually strategically placing out those because we can't take all of that down at the same time. So we'll be at Lakewood. We'll be doing the field first, right, as we complete that, and then we'll be moving in strategically with our plan, which is on our website, on when each of those elements will be addressed at different times.
And Alan, before you go on, at our next meeting, I'll bring to you what's called the deferred maintenance list. So every year, Alan and his department gives me a list of projects that we'll be doing over the summer, such as asphalting and some major things where we can't do them where kids are at there. So we'll bring that list so you'll see that with the cost, because we spend millions of dollars every summer, for example, painting and major, roofing and asphalting. So you'll see that next time.
I'm actually a little delinquent in getting that to him.
Well,
so
I didn't say that.
Yeah,
I didn't say that, so.
Yes.
For our schools located near the water, Naples, especially in Lowell, are we thinking about a plan for climate change? Because I know we're spending all this money, but if you look at those maps put out by the city of the king tides that are expected within the next 30 years, It looks like Naples could actually be very affected, and probably Lowell as well. So is that also, has that been thought about when we're spending the money on these schools? About, is it, are we going to be able to be using those schools in 30 years?
That's a great question. I've had meetings with the folks from the city. The city has an initiative where they're actually looking at what the theoretical impact would be to 6 inches of tide change or 12 inches of tide change and those type of things. So there are several schools, not only Naples, that could be directly impacted by some of that. We are talking with the city. We are looking at some of those long-range plans, but it's a very difficult proposition when you look at something like a school that's on an island and how we may or may not be able to address that. So we don't have anything in our current plan, but we are looking at it for long-term planning.
We're spending the money, like currently I think Naples is under, so we're spending the money on these schools, not really thinking about the fact that maybe even 20 to 30 years from now.
Yeah, so the way to think about it is most modernizations have about a 20 to 25 year lifespan. So
our schools are over 60 years.
I understand that, but a lot of the things that we're doing today will need to be redone in 25 to 30 years. So we still have to get there, I guess is my statement, is that when you do an upgrade like an air conditioning system, it has a lifespan.
I see what you're saying. I just question because I know a lot of our schools probably haven't had a ton of upgrades in the last 20 to 30. I mean, I went to a lot of these schools, and I haven't seen the major upgrades, so that's just why. I just think it's something that we need to think about when we're spending this kind of money.
Yeah. I think the way of looking at it is we have current needs now for the students that are here now, at the same time as we're planning for what the impacts for some of those things could be in 30 years from now. So as we look at future work, as we look at other things that'll be happening in the district, we definitely will be taking that stuff into consideration. A lot of the work that you see now will really need to be redone by the time that 30-year cycle hits. So I hope I answered your question. Yeah, okay. So I wanted to move on. So talking a little bit about the projects that we are doing. So this is our current projects that we are just finishing up with for the 2018-19 school year. It was actually the largest year of our bond program. The largest number of schools that we addressed at one time, the most aggressive part of our plan, where I won't go through each of these, but we have a whole group of elementary school modernizations that we are currently working on. Lakewood is still in process, but the vast majority of the rest of those are mostly complete. We have some cleanup work to do. We do have some punch list work that we're working on, such as Jefferson. If you're from Jefferson, we're still working on some elevators that were delayed in manufacturing. But largely, most of these are all completed, wrapped up, and the students are enjoying the benefits of the bond program. We also completed or started work in other things. We have Milliken. We have a brand new building that's under construction. A lot of the steel's up. If you've been by Milliken, the building is actually coming out of the ground. It's looking really nice there. Poly, the bleachers I'd mentioned to earlier. The SADO, the new STEM building at SADO, is now complete and occupied, and the students are benefiting from that. We've also done the field at Jefferson. We've done district-wide security improvements. We completed the vast majority of those over the summer. And Jordan continues as we move through those new building constructions at Jordan, looking to actually begin occupying those over the Christmas break. We also, in addition to this, let me back up here. In addition to this, we also did, as the superintendent mentioned, somewhere around $12 million in deferred work. So this is work that is unique to every school site, like roofing, like painting projects at your elementary school that would have been done ahead of the bond work coming in. So these are schools that the bond won't be there for maybe 5 or 6 years. We came in and we did painting projects there, roofing, asphalt replacement, asphalt patching, seal coating. We did about $12 million in deferred work in addition to all of this throughout the school district for all of those other schools that are not directly being modernized by the bond. So some of the successes, takeaways we like to talk about with the bond. We have about 90 active projects. That's from current design that we're looking at future work that's going on there. which totals about $1.5 billion in projects that we're actively touching right now, that we have team members that are working on, whether they're in closeout because the work has been done, or whether we're in initial design work, working with designers and doing survey work at school sites. We're currently touching about $1.5 billion of work. We completed 24 projects already in just 3 short years of the bond, which really is quite an achievement to be able to complete that many schools at that many time. There's about 538 classrooms that are now been modernized and are benefiting from the bond, and just a little bit under 14,000 kids now have air conditioning that didn't have it when the bond started back in 2016. So it's a big win for us, and we're really proud of some of these numbers of what we've been able to do. A lot of folks behind me that have done all the work. I don't do anything but stand up here and talk, so I really want to say that. But we've got a lot more coming. So moving forward, 1920, we're starting another 7 schools. We put Stevens in here. If you're from Stevenson, we had a little fire that we're taking care of, so we're going to go ahead and take care of that auditorium and fix it up. We're starting the track and field project at Milliken. And then as we move into 2021, we'll be starting another 6 elementary school projects. We'll be doing the Lakewood track and field will be coming, as well as starting the 2 new buildings at Jordan that we're looking at on the front of the school site. So a lot of work still to come as we're planning going forward. So additional information, somebody asked about additional information, here it is. We have an email account if you have a question or concern or comment. We monitor that email account daily, so if you have a question, please throw it in there and we'll get back to you. We have a good old-fashioned telephone. We also have a website, lbschoolbonds.net, where there's a host of information there about all the projects, schedules, costs, monies, all those kind of things that we present to our Citizens Oversight Committee that's available for you as a citizen. So,
before we take the questions, I just want to publicly thank Alan, because Alan, this is a huge task, and if you can see,
it's not me.
He's very calm. He goes to more public meetings than anybody, including the superintendent. But he's always answering people's questions, following up on issues, and so on. And the other part is Alan has worked really, really hard with his department. The board has given a directive that they want at least 30% of the individuals who are working on these projects to be what we call local hires. Now, in Long Beach, local hire means you live in our zip codes, because it doesn't mean you live 100 miles from here. That's a different piece. And we're actually at 20%, I think the last report shows.
Yes.
So it's thousands of people who are local here are getting, it's very interesting, they've highlighted some of the individuals who actually went to school there and now are working on a project there, which is pretty cool. So I just wanted to publicly say that, because people think we can go to the bank and cash $1.5 billion tomorrow and just do all the work in the next day. It doesn't work that way. But he's taken this huge monster and done what I'm going to call good public good. So thank you. So
thank you. I'd like to take that. I have a lot of really smart young people behind me that do all the good work. So, but yeah, you have a question?
Yes, I do. Thank you for the list. I don't see camps in here, because we really do need a gym. We have to travel to Washington Middle School to do sports. We borrow a
That's one right. So there's priority list, and so the list for the gym is to be determined. Because first, remember, the first issue is safety, air conditioning, and so on. So we have to look at that, because we have some middle schools, for example. K-8 schools that don't have gyms either. So we're looking at all those. Like Keller Middle School doesn't have a gym. So it was an old elementary school. So this goes back to the question that Alan raised at the very first part, where our needs are this big and we have this much resource. It goes back to the issue, do we spend the money today or do we wait, and so on. So our list is not, we haven't dropped anybody off these lists or the projects off the list. We just have to move people this way. So.
Thank you. Just a quick question. You showed like the 2021 and then like 1920. If you get those 1920 projects done, is it a hard line that you can't start the new ones until 2021, or is that something that is a slide so you can start those like 2021 projects this year if you get things done early?
So that's a hugely complicated question because remember that those other schools have active programs that are in place. So we have a whole program of logistically working with the schools to prepare them for the project. So there are groups of teachers that are being moved to other locations, and there's children that are being moved around during their educational program. So we always take the stance that it's about children first. And so we make sure that we try to minimize, I would love to say we don't have an impact to the instructional program, but minimize the impact. So we work with teachers to get them ready for move. So it's not a simple matter of saying, I finished in April, so let's go to the next school. It really isn't that easy, sorry.
We got a question over here. Are there any plans to put any more ballot measures out for additional bond funding in the near term?
I'll answer it this way. There's always need. As we talked about, there's always need. So that's really a conversation that the board and the superintendent and the community will have if and when there's any discussion about a future bond. But there's always need.
Yeah, and as Alan said, we study that on a regular basis, to be very honest with you, because you also want to make sure you strategically place it, because again, it goes back to the assessment of the value of the program. So, because as our needs are huge, they're billions and billions of dollars. So.
Other questions?
Yeah, we do. So there's English and Spanish. So this is English. That's Spanish.
Good morning. How much is the work, all the work that's been updated and completed at the school sites, is there, I know it's maybe it's not the right term, is there a warranty, or like if there's deficiencies that exist after the completion of work performed? Is it just a simple task as a work order for the district to come back and address, the items that haven't been done or that are deficient, or how does that work? Like if there's schools that need
so once we
repairs.
occupy it, that's a question was about warranty work, about really, I'll call it latent defects that happen on a construction project. Something was built and it didn't work correctly, or that there's problems that come out later on in the project, and absolutely. So we work very closely with our maintenance department. So when issues come up, that schools make us aware of issues, we go out and diagnose them. If it is a contract issue, we have bonds that actually require those contractors to basically guarantee their work. We have full warranties that last at least 12 months. Some systems are longer than that we have the contractors come back and make those repairs. So a lot of these new systems, these new HVAC systems, are very complicated. They're all electronic, digital systems, and sometimes issues come out a couple of months after you've used them. It's like that button on your car that you're not really sure what it does until you've driven it around for a while. That we have that same type of stuff. We have to wait till we get into cooling season, or we have to wait until we get into heating season before we really see that the system is operating the way it's supposed to. And then we can actually come out and diagnose it and fix that. So it's important to let us know if there are issues so we can come out and fix those.
So if
That's actually a question for you and probably the board members.
Okay, go ahead.
Similar question, but yesterday one of our schools was highlighted in the LA Times about the whole security issue.
Correct.
And are we looking at all back again about our whole thought? Because I think you've reiterated that we're going to lock all the schools up all the time. And all. Right. Now, are we rethinking that at all? That some of the schools, like say in Naples or Fremont, where the school is part of the community, are we re-looking at our stance on that?
Well,
or
there's two things. We will be looking in the future of some possible issues, but all schools are part of the community. And so the issue is, whatever we do, so I'll just give you a dollar amount, okay? Because it all comes back to money issues. So we know for a fact when we've closed our schools, the vandalism, burglary, all those go down. We know that for a fact. I just looked at the data. It's unbelievable. And so that's about safety issues. If we as a system, now I'm speaking as a system, if we open as a system one school, we have to offer it to all schools. So I'm just going to give you one example. So if every school were open on a Saturday, it would cost almost $900,000 because you have to pay individuals to be there. So the question is, where's that $900,000 going to come from? Okay, because that's about 7 teachers, 7 counselors, all those things. So what we, and when I say we, I and staff are working to present options to the board And it's really about short-term options and longer-term options. Because just like we do in the summertime, we work with the city to open our 5 pools, and we strategically place it throughout the area. Maybe we look at that with some of our schools as community, for a better term, centers with the Parks and Rec Department. So we have to do short-term, long-term, and in between. So we'll be discussing some of those in future board meetings, not this one coming up, because we want as much data out there, and it's going to be a longer discussion for the longer-term goal. But it's really important that folks understand that when parents came to us and community members came to us and said loud and clearly, we want our schools safe. We all know none of us, any of us, can guarantee 100% safety of our children. It's really hard to say, but it's true. When we go to the grocery store, the movies, whatever. But what can we do as a system? And Alan and his team have been great. We're actually looking at some new electronic things that would even make it safer for schools, for doors to shut automatically, all that kind of stuff. But in the meantime, we're implementing these things, and it's going quite well. And it is a change. It is an absolute change, and we totally get that. But we're going to look at how we can look at what options are possible, if they are possible. Because again, we have 84 buildings. We have 84 schools that do great work, and we want to make sure that we're all there together. So I want to move on to our next topic, because this is one that you pushed on us really hard for the high school readiness guide. So Victoria's going to be up here to share with that. So thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I have a short time to go over a lot of information with you, but we really want to give you time to look over what you were just given as a handout. It's called the High School Readiness Guide. Oh, I'm sorry, let me introduce myself. My name is Victoria. I work in the Research and School Improvement Office. I have a colleague here with me, Hamina. She has been our primary lead of my team, and as a team we have built this guide. It is really only for middle school students in preparation for high school. So we also have a college and career readiness guide, so anyone with a high school student might be familiar with that guide. This one is for middle school students, and again, the purpose of this guide is to help students understand the different pathway options, their own preparedness, and to be able to have a conversation with you, their site admin, and their teachers about what they need to do to feel prepared going into high school. So if I could have you work at your table, go through the guide, think of questions, talk about it amongst one another. These are just sample guides, so this is not anyone's student's information. Any questions up front before you guys start digging into it? No? Go ahead, talk about it. You will be given, if you haven't already, a Google form. We really want you to give your feedback there. We want to make sure that we record your feelings, your thoughts, how you are interpreting this guide. That way we can share that with our team and make improvements if necessary. So go ahead and feel free to. Okay.
So you guys can answer, what would you have liked as going into high school?
So really quick if I can, there's a tiny URL that you were given on the front side of your packet. The questionnaire will be loaded to that URL.
So like the arts.
questions? Yeah. Like a middle school readiness guide? It is being talked about it, so don't you worry. It's a slow growing process because of the amount of time and data that goes into building something like this, but it's definitely in the works. If I can get everyone's attention again. Can they? Hi, everyone. Oh, you go. Hi, everyone. If I can have your attention back up at me. Oh. All right. Can you put your hand up if you can hear me? That normally works sometimes. Oh, look. 1, 2.
Okay, we're going to go ahead.
All right, guys. Let's bring it back to the center. I do want to...
Victoria, good job.
All right. Hearing all that chatter makes me super excited. It means that you guys are thinking about it, digesting it, having thoughts and feelings about it. But I want to let you know, and I want to reiterate that none of those thoughts or feelings are valuable to our office if they don't get recorded. It is super important for our office that you go in and you fill out that Google form and you tell us how you're feeling. You let us know what your thoughts are. There's some opportunities also in the future to be part of a parent focus group. That is the last question on that questionnaire. Please give us your email if you're interested in doing that in the future. Again, your feedback and your thoughts and your feelings are super important to us, but we need them recorded for us to act on them. Thank you so much for your time. I hope the guides get you excited about getting students into middle school, because that's not something we say all the time. I'm going to hand it back over to our superintendent.
Are you going to go?
I wanted to clarify that the 7th and 8th graders will be getting this 9-page guide. We'll be putting it to Student View and Parent View next week. And then a week later, anybody that's a middle school parent out here will get a secure document delivery either by email or text with a PDF of that guide for your own student. And for 6th graders, they will be getting 4 pages of this guide. So it'll be the first 3 pages and then the last page. So 6th graders won't get every page. It's a little some of it doesn't apply, and some of it is just we don't have enough information to give them some of that data. So just so you guys know where you'll be seeing this if you are a middle school parent.
And I want to take a moment to thank Hamina and Victoria and the entire research department. These individuals work really, really hard, and they actually take your input and change things. So if you received the first college and career readiness guide, the very first example, it's very different because of the input they had. And Hamina and her colleagues actually did this in-house. The college and career readiness guide is we go to a vendor and get it. They told me that they could do it better and not as expensive. And I love that because then Hamina said, do we get the other money that goes with that? So then, yeah. But this is what I love about our system. People get the input from the stakeholders. They take it, they modify it. They brought in a bunch of student worker interns this summer, 4 or 5, right? Four, and who worked really, really hard to design and so on. So let's give them a round of applause. I'm so thankful for what they've done. So.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I also wanted to mention that there's links in there for the high school choice websites. So there's a lot of information about each school, each pathway, and these are all brand new websites that we've created so that every school and every pathway is represented with a lot of additional information that you might not know about them. There's, which colleges the graduates from that program are attending, what their coursework looks like. We have percent of AP class taking in 11th and 12th grade. So there's a lot of information to be able to make an informed choice on where your student's going to go to school for high school. So.
And please do fill out the Google form because they have more interns that are going to start soon. We just signed them to your department because our student interns asked if they could continue to work in the school year, and we said yes. And so about 55 of them have already been placed, and they're going to start. So again, please fill out that form, and thank you so much for everything, Kelly.
Put on this website along with the superintendent's web page, so you can get it at both places. Okay.
It's not there yet.
When I go back upstairs, that's my first job.
So, Sharita, can I give these to you for a minute? So if you would raise your hand if you do not have a raffle ticket, you need a raffle because we have lots of nice prizes. Sharita will come around and give you a ticket. So, and then there are tickets at each of the table. If you don't have one, raise your hand. I want to take a moment before I open to questions. Oh, she hasn't. So everyone has a ticket. Good. Oh, yeah, we haven't pulled any tickets yet, but we don't want anyone to get mad because we haven't given the ticket out. First of all, I want to say thank you to all of you who come to these meetings. I hope you get as much out of it as I get out of it. These are very, very exciting. I love the dialogue and the input, and I love the push, because that's how we all become better. So please continue that and share with others. So I'm going to open to questions before I do have the prizes. Yes, right here.
I have one question.
1 minute before, so we get, thank you.
One question, wearing two hats, as a parent and as a Long Beach Unified School District employee, as a recreational aide. We have been down at, just personally in our school, 2 recreational aides since the end of last year. It's a hard position to fill. And so that's why I'm here. And we've actually, I know our principal has interviewed a couple people in the past few weeks. They're looking at the hours and they're like, I'm sorry, I can't do, at half an hour in the morning, 15 minutes in the afternoon. Are there any conversations about making those hours solid again, or is that a school by school? I mean, I know our little school is in need of recreational aides because we're the front line, and what happens is that we're hiring parents, I'm one of them, right, that is not really necessarily prepared. I know this is another topic, but the behavioral frontline issues is us on the playground, and I don't know, I want to help with this somehow.
You've asked really at least two things. One is there's a new law that was passed where rec aides now have to fall under what's called the Well, no, not, they were always been mandated reporters, but how we hire them. So we had to test everybody, we had to do all these things, and so it's a slower process, to be very honest with you. So so that slows down the pool, so to speak. We have some individuals who will not work at certain schools. So I mean, to be really honest with you, because and people really do want to be as close as possible to their local school. The other one is that their budget essentially is about $4 million for aides through all the aides, K-8 and middle school. But the thing is, schools do have the authority to expand. So that example you gave, a half an hour and half hour, there are many schools that do that. They take it and they augment and they do that. But with the one caveat, they can't work over a certain number of hours a week, you know, that type of thing. And then the second part is what we are going to be doing is on the training piece. So we are going to be offering training as a system on multiple topics. So not only the behavior issues, but all other issues. Because every school uses their records just a little differently, to be real honest with you. So we're working diligently as an exec staff on the recruitment and getting the people to do that. And then the other part is providing the resources.
So the slow part, well, so for hiring now, for people like, I mean, our school's little, but we're down 2 records since last January. It would be easier to hire people if we could say, you work for 3 hours a day instead of you stay there all day long.
And that would be a site decision. So we as a system can't give any more money, but the site has with all of its resources. So for example, I'll pick on Kettering. Kettering has, under their incentive money, they have $55,000 of additional money this year. So they could take a chunk of that if they chose to and add that. So schools have the authority to do that because that would come under school culture and climate, and they're allowed to do that. And that's one reason.
All schools apply, all schools get that.
No, so you remember that incentive money that was here?
Oh,
but all schools get that, and that was one of the reasons that the budget department really said, can we give schools 100% of the carryover so they can do these, innovative things and that type of stuff. So, but they do have flexibility.
I'm sorry, one more quick question. I'm sorry to
Sure.
do this. Is there anything, this is a really big, broad question with the district and maybe the board, is there any program in the works to work with PD, Long Beach Unified School District, with our school valets?
Well, we have the valet program at several schools. Oh yeah, so if you're interested, give me an email or call, and we have lots of schools who do that. Yeah, absolutely, the valet program.
A safe one that has all the rules that everybody.
Yeah, no, actually, we can send you to schools where it's working extremely well. Yeah, run by kids actually.
That would be a good idea. I just had a question, general question. I know you mentioned behavior, like on your playground, but in general, we do a lot of stuff that incentivizes academics. So what are we doing? Because I notice at elementary school levels, because some of those kids aren't coming from a preschool program. So we have a lot of kindergartners that it's their first time in a school environment, and they're just like, they're like a little fish out of water. So what are we doing to up that social emotional part? Like I know at Head Start, which I am a part of, that's a big component of our curriculum and program. So what are we doing to maybe partner with them or go back and see what their best practices are that we can kind of integrate into our elementary schools to work on this big behavior problem that I just kind of see everywhere at that level and even higher?
The Head Start and the Child Development Centers actually work very closely with our kindergarten teams, and we're actually trying to enhance that. But that's a great example because in some campuses you'll have the Head Start, state preschool, Child Development Centers, ETK, TK, and kindergarten. Okay, so that's a great example of bringing those topics together and using those resources for those individuals, because you're right, people want to look at all those things. As a system, we're not doing any system-wide training on that, but our department, Dr. Baker, meets with those folks on a regular basis, on a monthly basis, to bring together those, exactly what you're talking about. Not only the behavior, but the communication of what was done here so that we know what was when we come in. And there have been some bridge programs at some of the schools. For example, King, for the last 2 years, has done a bridge program for the youngsters going from the preschool program into either the TK or the K program, and that's worked really, really well. So there's lots of different options out there.
This is just one quick question. It actually has to do with safety, but it doesn't have to do with safety for the reasons that you might think. I'm actually interested, I've had the unfortunate experience of observing tree trimming take place within 1 to 3 feet where children were being released from school. And we had our wonderful arborists that take excellent care of our trees on our properties for Long Beach Unified School District. My concern is that they're within 1 to 3 feet while logs are falling and dropping. What I'd like to do is request, one, first is the tree trimming department part of Alan's department?
Yeah, it would be, yes.
Great. And then the second question that I have is actually to the board, and it's really a request. Is it possible for us to do tree log trimming, not standardized tree trimming that's necessary year-round, but tree log trimming where trunks are falling? Could we please limit that to the summer?
Well, I'll talk to Alan about that. We'll look at. Sometimes we have to take care of trees because of diseases, but we can look at that. Thank you.
Yeah, I just had a question about, it's one question with 3 parts about accessing the money that we talked about for the budget. So the first one is, how do teachers access that $500, the TK, ETK money? How do they get that money?
So all those teachers have been given an email and have been told, yes, and actually they were given a suggested list if they, you didn't have to buy off this list, but they could buy off.
Okay, and then the other one was the one-time request proposal for addressing the school culture, climate. What does that process look like?
So Loy will put in the Google Classroom a little form. You limit it to, I think, 200 characters. We want it short and sweet. And basically, it's a one-pager that people fill out, say, can you fund X, and this is what we'd like to do. It comes directly to me.
What is it called?
It's called Request for... Special request
Special
form.
request form.
High tech.
Okay. All right.
It's really simple. It's
so
really
200 characters, super short.
Yeah, because we know the reason I keep it short is one time a person wrote me like a 3-page,
Okay.
You don't have to write a thesis statement.
And then the last one about access is the tutoring and enrichment money. How do we access and go through the process of that?
That's great. So that's brand new this year for all the non-Title I schools.
Right.
So I would go to your principal and say, hey, the superintendent said we have money for enrichment and we have money for tutorial support. So what's our plan?
Okay.
So
it's through the
seriously,
principal.
Absolutely, yeah. And I told all the principals, so what I do, to be honest with you, I meet with all the folks and say, I'm giving all the parents all this information, so be prepared, because they're going to come back to you and say, hey, and I'll give you a true story. This happened about 8 years ago. One of our schools, our high schools, has a great theater program, and the school wanted the PTA to pay $5,000 for sheet music, because they needed the sheet music for the program, which is a legit cost. So I told the school, don't do that. I told the PTA, do not give them $5,000 for that, because they had music money. So that $5,000 from the PTA is really what I call the icing on the cake. It's great, but those special things, whether it be field trips or whatever. So here's an example. This year, the board has approved for every 3rd grade student to go to the aquarium. So the board is paying for all the buses. There were schools that were paying for the buses. And so, for example, Los Cerritos called and said, our 3rd grade students don't want to go. Can our 2nd grade kids go? And we said, yes, send the 2nd grade students. So that's an example of one thing that's paid by the district, but now the PTAs or the schools who were paying for those didn't do it. And the reason is that a foundation is paying for the cost for the admission, but only about 20 schools of the 50 schools that could go were going. So we said we want everyone to go. So that's an example of system-wide.
We've got one over here.
Here I am.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, my question is, and hopefully I'm the last question.
Okay.
As far as this live stream, I want to have this for my PTA. So how do I do it?
Ray, do you want to answer it? Because it goes on the internet.
Yeah, all you have to do is go to the website, our district website, and down at the bottom there are a list of social media links like Facebook and Twitter. One there is just a play button. That is the link to YouTube. Okay. And you click on that and it will take you to our live stream. Now the live stream only happens when we're here, okay, because we're live.
Okay.
So after that it'll take a couple of days and then they can watch it a couple of places on our site, including YouTube. Okay, but if somebody goes there at 3 o'clock in the afternoon for a 5 o'clock meeting, it's just going to say, stay tuned for the meeting. Okay? There's not going to be anything else video on there.
Okay, so click on the YouTube button 5 minutes before the meeting starts, and then it'll ask you if you want to subscribe, and you can subscribe or not subscribe, and it will take you to this live stream, a live stream of this event.
And all of our meetings are archived, so any parent on the website. Yeah. Right, exactly.
The other thing is we do download your video that you're doing now on the superintendent's webpage the next day.
Right.
So,
Well, we have to send it out for captions, so.
Well, it'll take a couple days because legally we have to have captions on it, so we have to make sure.
Megan had a question.
Well, you said you can subscribe, so subscribe, because when you do subscribe, I get an alert.
Yeah.
And 3 minutes still, LBUSD is about to go live, so the parent education thing that happened the other night through Parent University, I got a reminder, I can click on it, I can watch it while I was at my other meeting. So I highly recommend you subscribe. It's, again, something it hasn't been active, but thanks to interns over the summer, they've got us all hooked up to do this great work, and Ray and his team. So definitely subscribe, have your parents subscribe. It's just a good way to get in the habit to remember that there's things happening all the time you didn't necessarily know about.
Thank
Okay,
you.
our last question right here, and then I'll stay for a few minutes afterwards.
Mi pregunta es, él menciona de que las escuelas pueden dar tutoría. Entonces, si te dicen que tu hijo tiene un IP y que él tiene maestra de apoyo y por eso él no puede recibir la tutoría, ¿eso es verdad o no?
So you said that schools have tutoring money. So if a child has an IEP and you're told that your student is not eligible for tutoring because he has an IEP, is that accurate?
Every student is in the in 3rd through 5th is eligible for tutoring, whether he or she has an IEP or not. And then many schools have added tutoring in grades 1 and 2. Yeah. So I'm going to pull these. We have several different things today for you. So you know I love coffee, so there's Starbucks here. A lot of good movies. We have a book of Polly's history. So there's, if you're a Poly grad, so this is, you get a ticket, you may want this. We have these shirts that we were made, and thanks to our CAC folks for giving us the decal. So this is a female, and then it's the back here. We have the male here. If you want that, you would pick this, and then Lori would help you with the size upstairs. Okay, and then obviously chocolate. So you have choice. So we always read the last 3 digits. So please look at that.
That's mine on the floor.
Yeah, I know. So it's 528. 528 is the first one. So come on up. You get to pick. The next one. Everyone's allowed. We're all one family. 520. 520. All right, come on down. The next one is 492. 492. Thank you. So you would take one of those. Great, great. Okay, the next one is 527. 527. Yep. All right. 485. 485. All right. Okay. The next one is 509. 509. Oh, see, good job. Oh, you would take this then. Okay. The next one is 495. 495. We have the books and we have tickets. 495. 508. 508. All right. Okay, good job. We have 513, 513. You get to choose which one of them. Okay, good job. Just one. Thank you. So we have, that's all gone. Sorry. I should. Thank you. 517, 517. Oh, hey. And then, oh, wow. Do you? So you're not that one. This is 507. Good job. And then this one is 516. 516. You're getting movie tickets. Who's 516? All right. Hey, guess what? You get to see Frozen 2. Thank you, everybody. Take care.